Hello students, welcome back to our channel, and here we are with another video. Today we are going to study the English of class 10th, and the book is First Flight. We are going to study chapter number 2, that is Nelson Mandela Long Walk to Freedom. So before we get started, we will have a glimpse of this story. So in this story, there is one thing on which the whole story is based upon. That is apartheid. What is it? It is a political system that separates people according to their race or their community or their color or their religion, you can say. So there is a discrimination on the basis of political system because of the color of the people, the religion of the people, the community of the people. So this is called apartheid, and the whole story is based upon this single word. Second thing is, the person who wrote this story is Nelson Mandela himself. Who is this person? If you know about the struggle of freedom of India, you know a very prominent person, that is Mahatma Gandhi, who is fondly called Bapu or father of the nation. So he played a prominent role in the struggle of the freedom of our country. The same way in South Africa, Nelson Mandela played the same role. How? We will read further in the story. But before some centuries ago, in a South African region, there was rule of white people. So they basically discriminated the black people. So he was the first black president of South Africa. So let us read something about him. Nelson Mandela has become South Africa's first black president after more than 3 centuries of white rule. Mr. Mandela's African National Congress Party won 252 of the 400 seats in the first democratic election of South Africa's history. So there were 400 seats, out of which Nelson Mandela's party, which was African National Congress, in short ANC, it won 252 seats. The inauguration ceremony took place in the Union Building's amphitheater. Now what is an amphitheater? So amphitheater is a building without a roof. That means it doesn't have any kind of roof, with many rows of seats rising in steps. It is like a stadium, but there is no roof. Typical of ancient Greece and Rome. Similarly, what we find in ancient Greek or in ancient Rome. In Pretoria today, the place is Pretoria, attended by politicians and dignitaries from more than 140 countries around the world. So when he won the election and when he was going to deliver the inaugural speech, there were more than 140 delegates of different countries around the world. Never, never again will this beautiful land experience the oppression of one by another, said Nelson Mandela in his address. In his first line, what he said, that the land, the country will never see the oppression of one by another. Jubilant scenes on the streets of Pretoria followed the ceremony, with blacks, whites and coloreds celebrating together. More than 1 lakh South African men, women and children of all races sang and danced with joy. So when he became the first black president of South Africa, so the people, not only the black but also white and all other different races, they all were celebrating together. So this was a little bit of introduction about Nelson Mandela. Apart from this, he done lots of remarkable work which we will read in this story further. And for your information, this is an extract from the biography, that means you can say an autobiography, because Nelson Mandela wrote it himself, so this is an autobiography. So this is an extract from that autobiography, and it is also written in the textbook. In this extract from his autobiography, Long Walk to Freedom, Mandela speaks about a historic occasion in the inauguration. Can you guess what the occasion might be? Check your guess with the news item from the BBC of 10th May 1994. That means the day on which this happened, this incident took place, this event took place, was 10th May 1994. And the news agency which covered this whole event was BBC. BBC, that means British Broadcast. So now we are going to read the story paragraph by paragraph, and we will understand what this story is all about. So let's get started. 10th May dawned bright and clear. For the past few days I had been pleasantly beset by dignitaries and world leaders who were coming to pay their respect before the inauguration. The inauguration would be the largest gathering ever international leaders on South African soil. That means the date I mentioned, it was 10th May 1994. So it was a remarkable day for the land of South Africa. Very huge crowd is going to attend this inaugural ceremony, and as I said earlier, there were more than 140 delegates of all other countries around the globe, around the earth. So this was the first paragraph. They were all coming to participate in this inaugural ceremony. The ceremonies took place in the lovely sandstone amphitheater formed by the Union Buildings in Pretoria. For decades, this had been the seat of white supremacy, and now it was the site of a rainbow gathering of different colors and nations for the installation of South Africa's first democratic non-racial government. So, before this incident, before this event, that amphitheater was mostly used by the white people, white leaders. For the first time in the history, that amphitheater was used by the black people. That means for any political party that was formed by the black people. So as I said earlier, there were not only black people who were celebrating with joy. There were also white people, there were also all other people, all other races, all other communities who were celebrating this event together. On that lovely autumn day, I was accompanied by my daughter Zenani. On the podium, Mr. De Klerk was the first sworn in as the second deputy president. Then Thabo Mbeki was sworn in as first deputy president. When it was my turn, I pledged to obey and uphold the constitution and to devote myself to the well-being of the republic and its people. To the assembled guest and the watching world, I said. So there were two things mentioned in this paragraph. First, it was the season of autumn, and before Nelson Mandela took oath, there were two more people who took oath before Nelson Mandela. Who were they? The first person was Mr. De Klerk, second deputy president. Then Mr. Thabo Mbeki, first deputy president. And when it was Nelson Mandela's turn, he came on the podium with his daughter, whose name was Zenani. And then what he was thinking, what he was pledged, there was a few words in his minds, and that was the constitution. That is the biggest written law of any country. the constitution, and the well-being of the people of South Africa. Next, what he said, today all of us do, by our presence here, confer glory and hope to newborn liberty. Out of the experience of an extraordinary human disaster that lasted too long, must be born a society of which all humanity will be proud. So he referred the discrimination of white people as a disaster, because he believed that all people in the society should have equal right to participate in each and everything, be it a political affair, be it job, be it education, each and everything. All people from all races should have equal opportunity to participate in all these things of the society, and that forms a balanced society in the world. So this was a remarkable day for the people of South Africa also, and for Nelson Mandela also. We, who were outlaws not so long ago, have today been given the rare privilege to be host to the nations of the world on our own soil. We thank all of our distinguished international guests for having come to take possession with the people of our country of what is, after all, a common victory for justice, for peace, for human dignity. So all the people of the South Africa, now they are dignified. Now their identity has come to an existence. Now they can be identified equally, as equal as the white people. And for watch this historical, remarkable day, all the people, all the delegates of all other countries, they have come to witness this for this day, for this event. We have at least achieved our political emancipation. We pledge ourselves to liberate all our people from the continuing bondage of poverty, deprivation, suffering, gender, and other discrimination. Here is a word which is used, emancipation, that means freedom from restrictions. So here Nelson Mandela wants to say that they have achieved a success in which there is no place for oppression, suppression, poverty, and before this all the black people, they were deprived of several rights. Now they have been given several rights, and suffering, gender, and other kind of discrimination like based on color, based on religious beliefs, and all others. So now the black people, now they are free from all these restrictions. Never, never, and never again shall it be that this beautiful land will again experience the oppression of one by another. So before this, white people used to oppress the black people, but since when Nelson Mandela became the first black president, all of these social evils, it has vanished from the society. Now the hormonal integrity has come to the people, to the society, to the community, and whole country. The sun shall never set on so glorious a human achievement. Let freedom reign. God bless Africa. So this was the last line of the speech. So here Nelson Mandela says that the sun is also witnessing this remarkable day, this historical day. And at last, the last word he said was, God bless Africa. A few moments later, we all lifted our eyes in awe at the spectacular array of South African jets, helicopters, and troops carriers rode in perfect formation over the Union buildings. It was not only a display of pinpoint precision and military force, but a demonstration of the military loyalty to the democracy, to a new government that had been freely and fairly elected. Only moments before, the highest generals of the South African Defence Force and Police, their chests bedecked with ribbons and medals, from days gone by saluted me and pledged their loyalty. I was not unmindful of the fact that not so many years before they would not have saluted but arrested me. Finally, a chevron of impala and gold of New South African flag. So, when he was going to take oath, the military, the armed forces, the police, they began their show. Like many choppers, many helicopters, and many troops of paramilitary forces, they marched and they displayed their parade, and also several generals, generals or military personals in highest order, in highest ranking, they saluted Nelson Mandela. So he was well aware of the fact that if I had not become the president of South Africa, they would have arrested me because of being black. So now, since there has been a fair election and I won the election by 252 seats, so now I have been accepted by the all races of people, be it black people, be it white people, or be it any other community, any other people, any other race of the South African land. And here is another word used, that is chevron. Chevron, that means a pattern of V shape which is worn by the military personnel in South Africa. The day was symbolized for me but the playing of our two national anthems and the vision of white singings Kosi Sikelel, I Africa, and black singing Die Stem, the old anthem of Republic. Although that day neither group knew the lyrics of the anthem they once despised, they would soon know the words by heart. So there were two national anthems mentioned of the South Africa. The first one, Kosi Sikelele, I Africa, and black singing. For black people there was another, that is Die Stem. So both the national anthem of South Africa, it was sung in the auditorium or in the amphitheater in which Nelson Mandela was Nelson Mandela was giving and delivering the speech. On the day of the inauguration, I was overwhelmed with a sense of history in the first decade of the 20th century. A few years after the bitter Anglo-Boer War and before my own birth, the white-skinned people of South Africa patched up their differences and erected a system of racial domination against the dark-skinned people of their own land. So I am halting here. I'm taking a break in the middle of the paragraph to highlight that here Nelson Mandela says that Anglo-Boer War, after this war, there was a discrimination that is led by the white people over the black people. And before it happened, it used to happen before the birth of Nelson Mandela and continued till he became the first president of South Africa. The structure they created formed the basis of one of the harshest, most inhumane societies the world has ever known. Now in the last decade of the 20th century and my own 8th decade as a man, that system had been overturned forever and replaced by one that recognized the rights and freedoms of all peoples regardless of the color of their skin. So now it was the moment when the people themselves refused that there shouldn't be any kind of discrimination based on the color of the people. That's why they elected a first ever black president, that is Nelson Mandela, in the history of the South Africa. That day had come about through the unimaginable sacrifices of thousands of my people. People whose suffering and courage can never be counted or repaid. I felt that day, as I have on so many other days, that I was simply the sum of all those African patriots who had gone before me. That long and noble line ended and now began again with me. I was painted that I was not able to thank them and that they were not able to see what their sacrifices had wrought. Here wrought means done or achieved. So, like India's struggle of freedom, there were many people behind the father of the nation, Mahatma Gandhi, who sacrificed a lot. Even some of them died in the freedom fight. The same way, Nelson Mandela says that this was not the fight for myself only. There were many people who were fighting for this right, for this moment, for this pledge, for this event, for this opportunity. So, some of them died, and there were many people, some of them Nelson Mandela says that they are worth mentioning, and they have been mentioned here. You can see some of the most prominent photographs have been given in the bottom of the page. So he says that it cannot be it will be most mentionable thing, and without whose name we cannot move forward, we cannot forget their sacrifice, we cannot leave them behind, because this moment has become possible. We are able to see this day because of all those fighters who have fought behind the curtail, behind the wheel. And there were many peoples, there were many persons with Nelson Mandela who stepped equally, who moved forward with Nelson Mandela, and who gave them a lot of courage, lot of inspiration, and Nelson Mandela won the election by 252 seats. The policy of apartheid created a deep and lasting wound in my country and my people. All of us will spend many years, if not generations, recovering from the profound hurt, but the decades of oppression and brutality had another unintended effect, and that was that it produced the Oliver Tambos, the Walter Sissulas, the Chief Luthulis, the Yusuf Dadus, the Bram Fishers, the Robert Sobukways of our time, men of such extraordinary courage, wisdom, and generosity that their like many never be known again. So here Nelson Mandela says, because of the suppression and because of the deprivation and because of the apartheid, as I said, the whole story revolves around this single word. Many great people have born, many great people have come to existence. Some of them, the names are given here at the bottom of this page with the photographs. They are the great people in South African history. They are known for their courage, wisdom, and generosity. They were such a great leaders that they took part and they moved forward with Nelson Mandela and fought for the freedom. Perhaps it requires such depth of operation to create such heights of character. My country is rich in the minerals and gems that lie beneath its soil, but I have always known that its greatest wealth is its people, finer and truer than the purest diamonds. So here Nelson Mandela says that the people are the greatest wealth of any nation, not any other source, not any other minerals that is lying under the ground, not any kind of resources, natural resources like gold, diamond, silver, or any other thing. The real wealth of any country, of any nation, lies in its people. It is the people who make the nation wealthier and healthier, not any other resource. It is from these comrades in the struggle that I learned the meaning of courage, time, and again I have seen men and women risk and give their lives for an idea. I have seen men stand up to attacks and torture without breaking, showing a strength and resilience that defies the imagination. Here, resilience means the ability to deal with any kind of hardship and recover from its effect. In short, you can term it as inner strength. I learned that courage was not the absence of fear but the triumph over it. The brave man is not he who does not feel afraid, but he who conquers that fear. Here, one very prominent and immortal line has been said by Nelson Mandela, and that is, you should underline it because it is also practical and noteworthy in our real life also. The brave man is not he who does not feel afraid. That means all men, all women, all creatures feel afraid. But the people, who conquer that fear, but the people who get victory over the fear are real great people. So in this paragraph, Nelson Mandela says that this oppression, this suppression, and many kind of apartheid, many kind of restrictions on the black people, it made the people become stronger more and more day after day. The more they are suppressed, the more they are deprived, the more their courage is enhanced, is increased. So it is the suppression that made the leaders so great. It is the apartheid, it is the deprivation that made the people so great, that made their courage, that made their, you can say, they are so strong, they have become so strong that they are even risking their lives, they are sacrificing their lives, they are dying for the freedom. They are so much filled with zeal, enthusiasm. No one is born hating another person because of the color of his skin or his background or his religion. People must learn to hate, and if they can learn to hate, they can be taught to love, for love comes more naturally to the human heart than its opposite. Here Nelson Mandela says that nobody is hating any other people by birth. It is the people from people that we learn. We learn here only after birth. We learn here only in this world what to love and what to hate. We choose, rather than you can say we are taught, we are influenced by the ideas, by the surrounding, by the atmosphere. We are very much influenced. So if we can learn we can adopt by the surrounding, by the atmosphere, what to love and what to hate, we can also learn to love everybody, to love everything. Because if somebody is black, if somebody is from other religion, if somebody is from other belief, it is not his fault, it is not her fault. But the evil, but the bad thing, the bad views, the bad woman lies in our mind, lies in our heart. That's why we start to hate people, we start to hate ideas, we start to hate things around us. So here Nelson Mandela says, if people can learn to hate, because by birth we do not hate anything, because that time when we are child, when we are not conscious, we do not know what to love and what to hate. In the world, when we become man or woman, then only we start loving, we start hating. So here Nelson Mandela says, if people can learn in this world what to love and what to hate, they can also learn what to love more prominently. And if they can learn what to love, that thing comes more naturally. Because God doesn't give anybody hate, He gives love to everything, to everybody, to each and every creature. So it is a man-made created thing that we start hatred in our mind, that we start developing hate in our mind, in our heart. It doesn't come naturally, but love, it comes naturally. Even in the grimmest times in prison, When my comrades and I were pushed to our limits, I would see a glimmer of humanity in one of the guards, perhaps just for a second, but it was enough to reassure me and keep me going. Man's goodness is a flame that can be hidden but never extinguished. So here Nelson Mandela says that when I was in the prison, when I was in the jail, we were suffering a lot. We were given so many kinds of punishment that we thought that now it is the moment that we will quit. We cannot go further. But right then, what he finds, there is a guard. There is a guard, and just for a second, he showed humanity. He showed kindness. And by saying this, Nelson Mandela filled with energy, filled with courage again, and he decided, no, I can go further. So here he says the courage of the people, the goodness, the kindness can be hidden for some time, can be vanished for some time, but it cannot be extinguished. It is like a fire, so it cannot be extinguished forever. It can be hidden, it can be vanished for a while only, for a moment only, but it cannot be vanished forever. In life, every man has twin obligations. Obligations to his family, to his parents, to his wife and children, and he has an obligation to his people, his community, his country, in a civil and humane society. Each man is able to fulfill those obligations according to his own inclinations and abilities. But in a country like South Africa, it was almost impossible for a man of my birth and color to fulfill both of those obligations. In South Africa, a man of color who attempted to live as a human being was punished and isolated. In South Africa, a man who tried to fulfill his duty to his people was inevitably ripped from his family and his home and was forced to live life apart. A twilight existence of secrecy and rebellion. I did not, in the beginning, choose to place my people above my family, but in attempting to serve my people, I found that I was prevented from fulfilling my obligation as a son, a brother, a father, and a husband. So Nelson Mandela says that in our life there are two aims, there are two achievements which we have to make. There are two obligations. The first obligation, the first duty is towards our family, and family includes mother, father, that means parents, wife, children, brother, sister, all of them. And the second obligation is towards the people we belong to. It's towards the community we belong to. Is towards the nation we belong to, in the nation we live in. So there are some obligation towards our family, and there are some obligations, some duties towards our people, towards our community, towards our society, and towards our country. That means towards our nation. But for Nelson Mandela, and in the surrounding he lives, in the atmosphere he lives, it is very much impossible for him to fulfill both the duties, to discharge both the duties, and to achieve both the obligations. Why? Because when he tried to do something for his own people, for his own community, that means for the black people, he was isolated. He was thrown away. As he said, and for some time he became rebellion. That means rebellion, a person who takes revenge. And at a point he has to give priority. So what he did, he keep his people, his community over his family. As he says in this paragraph, that sometimes I realize that I fail to fulfill my duties as a father, as a son, as a brother, as a husband, because I put my people above my
family, because I believe my duties, my obligations towards my people is far upper than my own family.
I was not born with a hunger to be free. I was born free, free in every way that I could know. Free to run in the fields near my mother's hut, free to swim in the clear stream that ran through my village, free to roast mealies under the stars and ride the broad backs of slow-moving bulls. As long as I obeyed my father and abided by the customs of my tribe, I was not troubled by the laws of man or God.
So here he says, in his childhood he was free to do many things, like to swim, like to run, like to cook food, like to play, and so many things he could do, unless and until he did not obey the instructions given by the tribe or his father.
It was only when I began to learn that my boyhood freedom was an illusion, when I discovered as a young man that my freedom had already been taken from me, that I began to hunger for it. At first, as a student, I wanted freedom only for myself, the transitory freedoms of being able to stay out at night and read what I pleased and go where I chose.
So he says, when I became younger, when I became a man from a child, then I realized I don't have any kind of freedom. So he was deprived of many rights, right? He cannot walk out in the night. Like today, whenever we want, we can go, as soon as it is not the safety issue. So we can go out at the roads, and we can go whenever, wherever we want, as soon as it is not the issue related to our safety or other people's safety. So we can go anywhere. But in South Africa, the black people, they were restricted that they cannot come out of their house in the night. And there were certain places which were restricted for black people, like some clubs, some cinema halls, and there are some other places. And some reading habits also.
Later, as a young man in Johannesburg, I yearned for a basic and honorable freedoms of achieving my potential, of earning my keep, of marrying and having a family, the freedom not to be obstructed in a lawful life.
So he wanted to marry, he wanted to have a family, he wanted to have kids.
But then I slowly saw that not only was I not free, but my brothers and sisters were not free.
Then he realized that I am not the only person. This is the case with all black people.
I saw that it was not just my freedom that was curtailed. Curtailed, that means reduced. But the freedom of everyone who looked like I did. That means here he refers all black people who looked like me, of the same skin, of the same color, of the same race. That is when I joined the African National Congress, and that is when the hunger for my own freedom became the greater hunger for the freedom of my people.
So when he joined the African National Congress, he learned many things, and then he realized it's not only about me, it's about the people I belong to, it's about the community I belong to, it's about the nation I belong to. So it is not my own fight, it is the fight for my people, for my community, for my nation.
It was this desire for the freedom of my people to live their lives with dignity and self-respect that animated my life, and that transformed a frightened young man into a bold one.
So here he says that when I saw this, when I realized that a large number of people, a whole community, a whole society of black people, a whole race of black people is deprived from certain rights, is curtailed, is restricted, then his body, his mind, his heart became full of spark, and from being a young shy man he became a bold man. And all this happened when he joined the African National Congress. that drove a law-abiding attorney to become a criminal, that turned a family-loving husband into a man without a home, that forced a life-loving man to live like a monk. So here he says how life changed when I realized these things about my people, about my community. First, I was a loving husband, and then I turned to a person who doesn't have any kind of family, and a person who lives in the house, who lives in the home with the family. Certainly he turned to be a monk, to a nomad who wanders here and there. A person who was abide by the law, who was following all the instructions, who was following all the law and order, suddenly became the criminal, because at this time he was violating certain laws which was against the dignity, which was against the self-respect of the black people. I am no more virtuous or self-sacrificing than the next man. But I found that I could not even enjoy the poor and limited freedoms I was allowed when I knew my people were not free. Freedom is indivisible. That chains on any one of my people were the chains of all of them. The chains on all of my people were the chains on me. So here he is adjoining his people with him, and he says that I do not want freedom for myself only, but I want freedom for my people, for entire nation, for all the black people. So if the restriction is for one person, that is, it is for entire black people, and if the freedom is for one person, that means it is for the entire black people. This is called unity. What he felt, what Nelson Mandela felt after joining African National Congress. I knew that the oppressor must be liberated just as surely as the oppressed. A man who takes away another man's freedom is a prisoner of hatred. Here he says that a person who suppresses another person is a victim of hatred, is a victim of hate. He does not do it on himself or herself, but it is because of the hatred that he has kept in his heart. It is because of the hate that he is keeping inside. He is locked behind the bars of prejudice. Here prejudice means a strong dislike without any reason. That means there are so many people that who do not go deeper inside anything, but from the upper part, just by knowing a few lines, they start to dislike anything, or they start to hate about something without any reason. So bars of prejudice and narrow-mindedness. I am not truly free if I am taking away someone else's freedom. So here also Nelson Mandela says that if you are taking someone else's freedom, that means you are also not getting freedom. Freedom merely means to be free and to let others be free. Just as surely as I am not free when my freedom is taken from me, the oppressed and the oppressor alike are robbed of their humanity. So here he says the oppressed and the person whose oppressor alike robbed of their humanity. Both of their humanity is taken away. Both of their rights are taken away. So here the story ends. I hope you enjoyed the story, although the story was quite long. If you have any kind of doubt, if you have any kind of question, you can write that in the comment box. And thank you very much for watching our videos. Please do subscribe our channel, like our videos, share our videos. We will be back again with another video. Till then, goodbye and stay tuned. Once again, thank you very much for watching our videos.